Untitled Wrestling live from Mysterion. You are watching Tyler Talks Wrestling, live from Michigan. Now, live from Muskegon, Michigan, this is Tiger Talks Wrestling. Like, comment, subscribe, or be infected.
Hello there, everybody. Welcome for the very first time in 2019 to Tiger Talks Wrestling. It's a very special episode of Tiger Talks Wrestling as it's the first recap or review show that I have actually done on here. This is going to be a weekly show, though, that I'm going to be doing. It's for King of the Yard 2 tournament. And something I talked with the two guys in charge of NUW, and they liked the idea. I thought it would be something nice to bring out there, get a little more information out about the tournament for you guys. Or just for tonight, it's just a recap, but we might have more stuff in store for future episodes of this. I'll start off with first saying, before we get into the King of the Yard show that we've seen this past week, Thursday, next week, Monday, we will start out with an actual Tiger Talks Wrestling show with a guest. Next Monday at 4 o'clock will be the very first guest on Tiger Talks Wrestling getting his own episode. And that will be, as you probably have seen throughout Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, I believe I posted as well, the boss man of VTW, the boss of the Sticks, Avery Hope, will be on here at 4 p.m. Eastern Time next Monday, leading into the King of the Yard 2 first round recap on Tiger Talks Wrestling. Hey, Gunshot, I see you're the only person in the chat section at the moment. Good to see you in here. And this probably isn't going to be that long of a show. It's, like I mentioned, just a recap. But we'll get into it, and we'll see how things go. Now, there was a lot of guys, a lot of new faces on this show, on the King of the Yard 2 qualifying show this past Thursday. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch the live stream, but I have watched since then. And probably won't be watching live streams. Who knows? Depends on work. How often I'll get to watch the live streams. But we started off the show where, of course, Nevon McDonald had to make this man qualify to get into the actual King of the Yard tournament because of what's been happening in their feud on NUW programming lately. That being the sauce man himself, Mike Perillo, went one-on-one with NLBW's Ghost. It was a very interesting match, back and forth at times. It looked like Ghost had things going in his way until a certain former foe of his, Evan Blake, would make an appearance, leading into Mike Perillo getting the win and advancing on to the King of the Yard tournament, which kind of figured he'd be the one to advance, and am happy to see that Mike Perillo will be taking part in this year's King of the Yard tournament after missing out on the first one. We would then go from that match to find out that JJ the Pitbull Cordero is actually entering himself into this year's King of the Yard 2. And he was one guy that, I will say as well, was missed in the first one. And I think he can go quite a ways in this tournament. JJ is definitely not somebody to take lightly. We would also see from BWE from Connecticut, PJC, somebody who I'm not very familiar with, would announce that he's going to be in the King of the Yard tournament as well this year. So it'll be interesting to see how he does, or how he fares in his first round this upcoming Thursday night. We would then go on to see Tycoon Mikado, who has just recently returned from over a year away from the ring, and we thought he was dead, to be in action against a man who is a sentimental favorite to a lot of guys in DBW, a lot of fans of DBW, The Blaze. Now, the stipulation for this match you had to remember was the winner will go on to face the King of the Mountain himself, Nevon McDonald, in the first round of the King of the Yard tournament. They had a very good match. It looked like Tycoon Mikado might have had the win at a couple different points. However, in the end, it came down to the coup de grace from The Blaze to pick up the win. as everybody seemed to be quite happy that the Blaze was going on. But now the Blaze has a very tough test ahead of him, as he will go one-on-one with the aforementioned King of the Mountain, Navon McDonald. I have a feeling for Navon, he feels like the Blaze is going to be a much easier opponent to get through than who he faced in the first round of last year, but last King of the Yard, with all the fiasco he had with AK-47. I'm sure Navon's very much figuring that won't be happening this year. Speaking of Navon, I also can't forget to mention this originally was supposed to be a 64-man tournament, but Navon feels that the fans have treated him poorly and wrongly, so he has dropped it back down to 32. So don't forget that as we go on. Yes, I know. It's exactly what you wanted, Navon. Would be remiss if I didn't mention it. So yes, I'm sure it's a very person you're expecting to go through. As I know Navon is expecting to go all the way this year and win the King of the Yard tournament, which a lot of people I'm sure would not like to see happen, but not everybody gets what they want, as Navon would mention. From that Blaze Tycoon Mikado match, we would see a couple more names mentioned that will be in the tournament, as Ustalo would throw his name in the hat and mention that when he was in King of the Yard 1, it was his very first time inside a wrestling ring. So it was a big transition for him to go from a trampoline all the time in UWE to being in the ring. But we have seen a lot of Ustalo in rings since then between DBW and NUW. So Ustalo might be a force to be reckoned with. He's been on quite a roll. He did recently beat Novin in a casket match in UWF New York as well. So if you guys haven't checked that out, make sure you go and check it out on their channel. Speaking of UWF New York, Scorpion the Assassin would be the next man we would see throw his name in the hat. And Scorpion has made a few appearances lately in NUW and hasn't gone the greatest for him for the most part, but I still think Scorpion is one man who could do quite well in this tournament. I'm getting dings here. All right. And then the next match we would see Carlos Mysterion, who fans of NUW and DBW both would be familiar with, and no, he's not always, his win-loss record isn't the best, let's put it that way. As he would go against Damien Fatel, I believe is how it's pronounced. A guy from WCF, who I'm not too familiar with. I know he's the champion there, is what was mentioned in the King of the Yard 2 qualifying show. And I will say, I was quite impressed with how Damien did in this match. And he did, as per most people usually do, seem to dominate Carlos Mysterion throughout the majority of that match, as he will now advance into the King of the Yard tournament. Be interesting to see how he does and how some of these other newer names and newer faces will do as well. I'll mention it. Navon, as per usual, with his sayings, people in hell want ice water, but that don't mean they're going to get it. I'm winning it all, and tomorrow, read this now, that I'm going to release a video for the Blaze just so he know what he's getting into. So be on the lookout for Navon McDonald posting the video, I'm sure, on the NUW channel tomorrow, addressing his first round opponent in the Blaze. So the Blaze better be ready, because I know for sure he's going to be in for one hell of a fight when it comes to the first round of the King of the Yard tournament on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the NUW channel. Well, yes, not just the Blaze, but for all who are coming into his tournament, as Navon mentions. If you cross the boss, then things won't turn out too well for you. The greatest tournament ever done in this community. Yes, I would agree. King of the Yard 1 was the greatest tournament ever. So I'm sure King of the Yard 2 will expand upon that. All right. This Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, it's on. Yep. Yes, and I'll keep mentioning that too. Said it a few times. But it's worth re-mentioning. We would also see then Brandon Castelli from NLBW, who's been around several different companies throughout the last year. He had thrown his name in the hat and is going to be part of the King of the Yard 2 tournament this year. Be interesting to see how well he does, how he fares, knowing that his appearances in NUW haven't been the best either. So we'll see if he can pick up any momentum or steam going in there. And then the next man who we would see that threw his name in the hat is one man who I think many people will probably be rooting for, and that man is Dirty DeChico, somebody who I was happy to see have a video posted in that show saying that he was going to be part of the tournament, because Dirty is one guy who I think could go a long ways, perhaps even to the semifinals or finals. Who knows, depending on how things stack up. And we would then see the backyard wrestling nightmare Adam Anderson make his NUW debut, in-ring debut, as he would go against a little bit of an unknown superstar in Charles Stone. And Dirty don't stand a chance. Yeah, I'm sure that's what you figured him on, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Adam Anderson, pretty much, you've seen a few things, good things from Charles in that match, but for the most part, Adam Anderson did dominate that match and did pick up a big win. Now, what happened after the match, and knowing who Adam Anderson has to face in the first round, I don't envy Adam Anderson. Got Riley Bates in here, says, damn, McDonald is good. What's your secret, Navon? Yeah, well, they can talk about that. But because after the match, the Dark Side came in and super kicked Charles Stone, told him he was never welcome in NUW again. And then we've seen the conversation back and forth between the Dark Side and Adam Anderson. Adam claims that it's his ring, whereas the Dark Side rightfully says, no, it's my ring. I've been here a long time. This is your first foray here. And those two men will face off in the first round. And after what Adam Anderson did at the end of that promo, I don't see things going well for Adam Anderson. I think the Dark Side is going to easily, well, maybe not easily, but is going to advance nonetheless past the first round and get past Adam Anderson after that kick to the ropes as the Dark Side was trying to leave, and then the knockout from Adam Anderson after the match. I just don't see things going well for him in the first round, because I know the Dark Side's not one man to forgive or forget. The Dark Side, I think, being his first King of the Yard tournament as well, that he's actually been part of the tournament, will do well as also in this tournament. So we would then see a video package showing the history of pretty much Mr. Judgment, who is also going to be in this tournament and is saying he's going to be taking a lot of souls in the tournament. I'm the only piece of crap, Riley Bates. You find me everywhere, don't you? Of course he does. He's always everywhere that I'm at, pretty much, Navon. So, Mr. Judgment, I think, could be a force in this one. He did well in the first King of the Yard tournament until he ran up against, I believe it was Yankee that knocked him out, and that was an awesome match. Then we would see another man who could be a fan favorite perhaps in this tournament. A man who many people know from HBTW/APW days, who has made his resurgence in the community, and that's being Corey Graves, who seems pretty hell-bent on doing what he can. Navon McDonald mentions Mr. Judgment is definitely a force to be reckoned with. You should know, you and your father have both had run-ins with him, so Mr. Judgment, I could see going quite a ways. Corey Graves, though, as I was talking about, for some people he might be a dark horse, but I just think Corey's gonna go quite a ways, get through a few rounds in this tournament. But we'll see what happens with that. There's a lot of guys that are going to be hard to not pick as a favorite to win this tournament, in my opinion. Not that we know all 32 men that are part of it, but out of the guys that we do know currently, it's going to be a tough task for anybody to get past all 31 other competitors and win the tournament. we would then go from Corey Graves announcing that he's going to be a part of this tournament this time around, unlike last time because he wasn't a part of King of the Yard 1, to seeing the icon, Chaz Evans, go one-on-one with Ganja the Clown. Knowing those two competitors, not too much for me for Chaz, but knowing Ganja the Clown and his record, or lack thereof record, no, you kind of had to figure Chaz was going to have this one in the bag, and Ganja gave up a good fight, but Chaz did take the win, and he's another guy from WCF that'll be somebody to watch in this tournament. And then before we got into the main event, we would hear from Jim Connors and Clarke Williams. They both will be part of the tournament. And those two guys, Jim Connors we've seen a little bit of. We just seen him recently in NUW as him and Scorpion went against the Heretics and came up short for the tag team titles. Clarke Williams, I believe this will be his first foray pretty much in NUW. And he says he's going to be back several times after the King of the Yard tournament. So we'll see what happens with that and how many people he can take off of his list. As he says he plans on taking out a lot of men. So we'll see what goes on there. Now then we would go into the main event of the show, a triple threat match. You would have the notorious one. No. You'd have Devin James anyways, going against AC Insane Barry from KWA and Evan Blake, who we haven't seen much of lately. And one of the things they brought up and mentioned going into this match is Evan Blake had never won a match in the NUW Slaughterhouse. So that was something to look out for as we went along in the match. And AC Insane Barry spent a lot of time during this triple threat match on the outside of the ring. So we got to see a lot between Devin James and Evan Blake, and they put on quite the show, in my opinion. And we would see at the end there, Evan Blake would actually pretty much lock up AC Insane Barry in one of the outhouses with a broom, and then would lay out Devin James to advance into the King of the Yard tournament. And that match, in my opinion, was honestly probably the best match, or close to the best match on this show. I'm a big fan of triple threats, partially, but not that there was a whole lot of all three men going at it in this match. But I was very happy to see that Evan Blake did finally pick up a win in the Slaughterhouse, and I'm happy to see that he will get a chance to re-enter the King of the Yard tournament this time around, instead of just being a sudden placement into the second round like he was last time around. So it'll be interesting to see who Evan Blake draws as his first round opponent and how he does against that opponent and how he does in this tournament. And Navon brings up a good point. He says, I thought it was pretty impressive watching Adam Anderson lay out the dark side on the qualifying show. I will say Adam Anderson did make a name for himself for his first appearance in NUW. So that was definitely certain. I know part of the reason you mentioned that, Navon, is you and Darkseid have hated each other forever and always will, I think. So. So from what we know, we've got superstars currently from a few different companies involved in the King of the Yard 2 this year. So you got guys from NUW, of course. I'm sure we don't know everybody from NUW that'll be a part of the King of the Yard 2 tournament yet, but we know quite a few guys from NUW that will be. We got guys from DBW, UWE, UWF, KWA, NLBW, BWE, and WCF. So will there be other companies involved? Who knows? Just have to wait and find out as you tune in this upcoming Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, will be the live stream for King of the Yard 2. Navon mentions Evan Blake. Man, I would love to wrestle him, beat him, and send him on his way. That potentially could happen. It would have to wait at least until the second round, obviously, since you got the Blaze first round. But so, with all that being said, the only two matches that we know for sure in the first round coming this upcoming Thursday night is, of course, the Blaze versus Navon McDonald, and you also got the Dark Side versus Adam Anderson. Devon also mentioned Scorpion the Assassin as well, for that matter. He'd like to send on his way. So we could see those matches. We could see Devon McDonald versus Evan Blake at some point in the tournament. We could see Devon McDonald versus Scorpion the Assassin at some point during this tournament. It'll be interesting to see how the cards stack up, so to speak, and who will face whom in each round. For me, for one, it's tough to pick. King of the Yard 1, I had a favorite for the semifinals and a favorite for the finals. But until I know the entire field for this year's tournament, I won't be able to pick that too well. Although I do have a couple people that I think have a great chance at winning this year's tournament. Honestly, one guy who many people wouldn't like, but I kind of would like to see win is King of the Mountain himself, Devon McDonald. So, but looking at the guys that are on this list that have been revealed so far, I could see a guy like Dirty DeChico perhaps winning the whole thing. I could see Mr. Judgment taking it. Corey Graves perhaps taking it. He's got a lot of experience. Ooh. Asking if I could bring someone for Devon to make a call to participate in the tournament, who would I want? That's tough. That's very tough. I know there's a lot of guys here in Michigan that I would have liked to have seen in the tournament, but as far as I know, none of them were able to make it there. But very, very tough. Because there's a lot of guys, only one person. If I only could pick one person. Damn. You're going to make me think on that one, huh? Well, I'm not saying he's my one pick for it. I would like to see Yankee again because we haven't seen much of him. But no, the one person I would pick, I'd have to go with Cage, to be honest with you. KBW's Cage. I don't know what he's doing around the time of the shows, but I just would love to see Cage in there. We've seen AK-47 and how well he did in the first tournament. I just love to see how Cage would do in a tournament situation. We haven't really seen that from him in the community, so Cage would have to be my one answer for that one. Of course, I'm a big Cage mark, as you'd put it too, so as people would put it. What a terrible answer. Well, I can give you a second person right behind him, and he would be somebody from here in Michigan. But no, I have to go with Cage, like I said. So I'm a huge fan, and like I mentioned, you haven't really seen him in a tournament type situation. I just, knowing how well of a competitor Cage is and the stamina he's got, I just think he would do very well and would go very far in a tournament situation. What else you got? All right. Now we'll see. Fine. The second person I would say from Michigan, the one person I'd definitely like to see in the tournament at some point in time would be, well, probably most people wouldn't be surprised by this, but he used to go by Mark Williams. It's just Eli now. So Eli Shelton. I think he would be fun to watch in that tournament and see how he would do against some people, especially after some things that happened last year and knowing how some people feel about him. But that's those. What was I going to do? Not going to read that right now. Get them later. I figured Mark Williams or Eli would be a better answer. So I know you and Mark or Eli get along quite well. which isn't too surprising, to be honest. But no, I'd love to see him. I'd love to see even H2 make a trip to New York and be part of the King of the Yard tournament. That would have been great too. But unfortunately, it looks like as of right now, H2 is retired, so that won't be happening. So, but hey, you never know what the future could hold. I know. When it comes to KBW, you're not too fond of any of them, especially after what AK-47 did to you in the first round of the first King of the Yard tournament. Yeah, you bring up a good, semi-good point. Last time you remember seeing Cage, he knocked his lights out, clean out, courtesy of an El Kabong. But the last time we seen Cage was actually part of Best in the Yard 4 when even AK went in a handicap match against the FTI. Yeah, I didn't really mention if it was going to be the full first round or not, but I kind of figured it'd be broke up over the 2 weeks, like last year, or last time was. So I have the info right, and so you guys all have the info right. It'll be the first round, part 1, this upcoming Thursday on the NUW YouTube channel for the King of the Yard tournament, and then next Thursday will be part 2 of the first round of the King of the Yard tournament. I remember you guys did that for the first one, so I kind of figured it would be. I just hadn't really specified because nobody had said for certain. So thank you, Darkside, for that one. Clarify it up for anybody who might be watching and want to know. Aha. So confirmed from the dark side, Navon McDonald versus the Blaze will be next Thursday, not this upcoming Thursday. So still, that'll be in a first round match and will be fun to see. That's what I was going to mention. Okay, nothing important there. Just wanted to see that real quick. Now, I do want to mention for the, well, we get to what Darkside mentioned before I say that. Darkside says, however, I will be ripping the dick from Adam Popsicle Pervert Anderson this Thursday. So you will see the Darkside versus Adam Anderson in part 1 of the first round of the King of the Yard 2 tournament this upcoming Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time live on the NUW YouTube channel network. Yeah, that's right. Now, as for it pertains to doing these review shows, if people would be interested in doing it and would be interested in seeing it, I am thinking about bringing on, if anybody wanted to now, they could come on and talk about whatever they wanted to for the King of the Yard tournament. But in the future, I plan on bringing on winners from each round and see what their opinions of their matches were and what they feel is their future of the King of the Yard tournament as well. Like I said, that'll be completely up to the competitors if they wanted to join, knowing that this show will be every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So if anybody's available, I'll be hitting up some people and asking them. They can hit me up as well. You know, all the info about my Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's all in there. Oh, and speaking of which, you'll see all that at the end of the show tonight as well. We got something special and new now for the end of Tiger Talks Wrestling shows. This show will probably be, I don't believe any week will be over an hour long, half hour. We're hitting right now pretty much, and that's about what it'll probably be, the recap shows wise, maybe a little longer, but we'll see. If there's anything else, there's a lot of names we know of that will be part of the King of the Yard 2 tournament after watching the King of the Yard 2 qualifying show. And It'll be interesting to see. I wouldn't mind. I might even put a poll out there, see who people are thinking are favorites to go into the King of the Yard 2 tournament and win the entire show. I'll give my opinions throughout the tournament. Gotta clarify one more time before we head off the air here tonight. This Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the NUW YouTube channel. Make sure you tune in for the live stream of King of the Yard 2, first round, part 1. And then next Thursday will be part 2. And next Monday, right here on Tiger Talks Wrestling, join in at 4 p.m. Eastern Time as I am joined by my first guest of 2019 in the Boss of the Sticks, Avery Hoke. Leading into 6 p.m. Eastern Time, again, we will be here live for the NUW presenting King of the Yard 2 tournament first round, part 1 recap show. Between now and then, though, this upcoming Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, I will also be back on the air for a NXT TakeOver Phoenix and Royal Rumble prediction shows. Still looking for people. If anybody's interested to join that, to let me know, and we'll get together for that as well. Other than that, as mentioned, I'll mention it again here real quick. We've seen Mike Perillo, The Blaze, Damian Fatale, Adam Anderson, Chaz Evans, and Evan Blake all won their matches on the qualifying show of King of the Yard 2. And they will be going into the first round, where we know The Blaze will face Nevon McDonald, not this upcoming Thursday, but next Thursday in part 2 of the first round. And we also know that Adam Anderson will be going against the Dark Side, who will be looking for revenge this upcoming Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the NUW channel as part of King of the Yard 2. We also found out that JJ the Pitbull Cordero, PJC, Ustalo, Scorpion the Assassin, Brandon Castelli, Dirty DeChico, Mr. Judgment, Corey Graves, Jim Connors, and Clarke Williams will all be part of the King of the Yard 2 tournament. Who else will join in? We'll just have to wait and see. For now, this has been the King of the Yard 2 qualifying show recap. I am Tony. This has been Tiger Talks Wrestling. And we will see you guys. Whoops. I hit a wrong button. It's upcoming Saturday for that NXT TakeOver and Royal Rumble recap show. Prediction show, rather.